Why you do this? Understand yourself. You think you've moved on, but your reactions haven't. You tell yourself, that was years ago, yet your body still flinches in moments that look harmless. A tone shifts, someone pulls back, something small happens, and your system reacts before you can think. Your heart speeds up, your chest tightens, your thoughts scramble to catch up. And in that second you wonder, why is this still happening? It feels automatic, mechanical, like a switch being flipped behind your back. Your past is not just a story you remember. It is a pattern your nervous system still runs. It lives in how you interpret silence, how you brace for disappointment, how you prepare for emotional impact before it arrives. You may not remember every detail of your early environment, but your body does. It remembers the tone, the unpredictability, the distance, the pressure. It learned what was safe and what was not before you had language. And now it follows that old map automatically, not because you are broken, but because your system thinks it is protecting you. And here's the part you never realized. If your reactions feel too strong, it's not a flaw, it's evidence of how deeply you were shaped. People with responses like yours aren't weak, they're highly attuned, hyper-perceptive, wired for emotional pattern recognition. That sensitivity is not your damage, it's your superpower. And by the end of this video, you'll understand how to use it instead of fear it. You might see it in relationships. You pull away when someone gets close, even though closeness is what you want. Or you grip tighter when someone becomes distant, even when you know it pushes them away. A delayed text feels heavier than it should. A small disagreement feels like rejection. The reaction arrives fast, faster than logic, and you are left trying to calm something that already escalated. Or it shows up in performance. You overwork because rest feels unsafe. You anticipate criticism before anyone speaks. You replay conversations long after they end, scanning for mistakes. Even when things go well, you cannot fully relax. Something inside you waits for the drop, for the shift, for the moment it turns. You call it anxiety, but it is often memory wearing a new face. Your early environment was your first emotional blueprint. It taught you what love looks like, how conflict feels, how quickly safety can disappear. As a child, you were not analyzing patterns, you were absorbing them. Every repeated tone, every reaction, every unspoken rule became instruction. Stay quiet. Perform. Anticipate. These were not choices. They were adaptations, necessary ones. Adaptations do not expire just because time passes. Your nervous system assumes what kept you safe once will keep you safe again. So it scans for familiar emotional signals, not accurate ones, familiar ones. That is why you can recreate dynamics that once hurt you. Not because you want pain, but because familiarity feels predictable. And predictable feels safer than the unknown. Triggers are rarely about the present alone. When someone raises their voice, you are not only hearing them, you are hearing echoes. When someone withdraws, you are not only seeing distance, you are feeling every previous version of distance stored in your system. The current moment becomes a doorway, and your history walks through it. That is why your reaction can feel bigger than the event. Your system stacks past and present together in real time. It does not pause to separate then from now. It reacts to emotional tone, not calendar dates. And because this happens below awareness, it feels like, this is just who I am. But it is not your personality. It is conditioning moving through your body. When the trigger hits, your nervous system moves instantly. Stress hormones release before a full thought forms. Your muscles tense, your breathing shifts, your focus narrows. You prepare for impact even if no real threat exists. This is physiology, not drama. Your body is following an old emergency protocol. If your early environment required hyper-awareness, your system learned to stay alert. If it required suppression, it learned to shut down fast. If it required pleasing, it learned to override your needs. These responses are survival strategies. The problem is that they feel intense in environments that no longer demand them. And that intensity often turns into shame. Overwhelm happens when your present reality and your internal alarm do not match. Part of you knows you are safe. Another part does not believe it. That split creates noise inside your body. You try to think your way out of it, but the body does not respond to arguments. It responds to perceived threat shaped by history. So you end up fighting yourself. Calm down. It's not that serious, but self-criticism confirms to your nervous system that something is wrong. The more you resist the reaction, the louder it becomes. Not because you are weak, but because your body is completing a stress response wired long ago. Somewhere earlier in your life, intensity and attachment were paired together. It may not have been dramatic. It may have been subtle. A parent who was loving but unpredictable, a caregiver who was present but emotionally inconsistent, attention that had to be earned. And here's the part people often overlook. Children who grow up in inconsistent emotional environments don't become weak, they become hyper-aware. They develop sharper intuition. They read tone, energy, micro-expressions, and emotional shifts with unusual accuracy. It's a form of intelligence, one your system built to keep you safe. Your body learned to track changes carefully. It learned that closeness could disappear. It learned that staying alert increased your chances of maintaining connection. So now, when someone is inconsistent, it feels familiar. And familiarity feels safe, even when it hurts. Over time, you stop seeing the pattern as learned. You start calling it who you are. I'm anxious. I'm avoidant. I'm too much. These labels feel permanent. They feel personal. But they often describe adaptations, not your core. When a coping strategy repeats long enough, it fuses with identity. Letting it go can feel like losing yourself. Because if you are not the overachiever, the caretaker, the distant one, then who are you? Growth feels threatening here, not because change is wrong, but because it challenges the version of you that once kept you safe. Breaking a pattern begins with awareness. You notice when your reaction feels older than the moment. You pause and ask, what does this remind my body of? That question creates space, space between stimulus and response, space between past and present. In that space, choice appears. You begin to separate memory from reality. You see that your body is following a blueprint, not a current threat. The reaction may still come, but it softens. And softness is the beginning of freedom. What if your emotional patterns are not damage, but intelligence? What if your system adapted exactly as it needed to? When you see it that way, shame loosens. You stop asking, what's wrong with me? And start asking, what protected me back then? That shift changes your relationship with yourself. Understanding the purpose of a pattern allows you to update it. You can thank it. You can gently teach your nervous system that the environment has changed. This is not about erasing your past. It is about responding from the present instead of reacting from memory. Transformation is subtle. It happens when you respond differently in one small moment. When you stay instead of withdrawing. When you speak instead of assuming. When you breathe through the surge instead of obeying it. These moments feel small, but they rewire patterns. Each time you choose awareness over autopilot, you send a new signal. This is different. We are safe. Over time, the intensity decreases. The recovery shortens. The trigger loses power, not because the past disappears, but because the present grows stronger. Relief begins when you stop fighting your history. You realize your reactions make sense given where you came from. Compassion replaces criticism. Curiosity replaces shame. And the internal war quiets. When the war quiets, regulation becomes easier. Your body no longer feels attacked by your own thoughts. You are not outrunning your past, you are learning from it. And understanding reduces intensity more than control ever could. Integration means your past exists, but it does not drive. You feel the trigger and the present moment at the same time. That dual awareness is maturity. You are no longer fused with the reaction. You stop trying to erase old parts of yourself. The anxious part, the guarded part, they are not enemies. They are outdated protectors. And when protectors feel seen, they soften. Empowerment is not about never being triggered. It is about recognizing when your body follows an old map, and choosing, repeatedly, to draw a new one. That requires patience, honesty, repetition. Your nervous system can learn. It can update. It can experience safety in ways it never did before. You are influenced by your early environment, but you are not trapped in it. Influence can be reshaped. You are not dramatic, you are patterned. You are not broken, you are conditioned. And conditioning doesn't dissolve after one insight, but every time you respond differently, you weaken the old loop. Nothing changes in one moment, but one moment begins the change. When your reaction rises, the goal isn't to stop it. It's to slow it by 5%. To pause long enough to notice, this feels old. And that tiny pause is not tiny at all. It is the nervous system's first sign of safety. It's the spark that allows the next repetition, and the next, and the next. Rewiring isn't dramatic, it's repetition. Small shifts made in real moments. That's how patterns soften, not all at once, but consistently, quietly, inevitably. Your early environment built your first emotional blueprint, but patterns are not destiny. They're habits your nervous system learned so you could survive. And the fact that you stayed all the way to this moment says something important about you. It means you're not avoiding your patterns anymore, you're meeting them. You're curious, you're ready for something different. Here's a shift that actually begins rewiring. When a reaction rises, don't attack yourself. Don't ask, why am I like this? Ask instead, what is my body trying to protect me from right now? That single question flips the entire script. It turns shame into clarity. It turns panic into understanding. And your nervous system learns, I'm safe. I don't need to fight the past. You cannot erase where you came from, but you can shape who you become next. So now the real question is, if this is the moment you start rewriting your blueprint, what's the first small shift you'll make to break an old pattern? Your answer might help someone else too.